Warning! This chapter contains the following: gore, mention of murder, mention of death, and sensitive topics. Read at your own risk.
Chapter 6. Andy's POV. I felt like I just woke up from a bad dream. I looked around not knowing where I was. Looking around, I could tell I was in someone's apartment, but whose? The last thing I remember was going home. Then I saw Klaus. I followed him. I was getting angry at him, and then, I don't remember. I started to panic. I didn't know where I was, who could also be there, or how I even got here in the first place. Calm down, Andy. It's all right. I need to be calm. Something soon caught my eye. A framed photo of me and the others. All of my friends, even I, have a photo of the 5 of us. One of my friends lives here. Wait. If I was following Klaus, then maybe I passed out and he helped me. Yeah, just keep thinking like that. When I went to stand up, I felt a sharp pain in my side. Maybe I did fall or something. My friends used to say I could get tripped up on air. So it's possible. I forced myself to stand. It hurt so much. I started to walk around. Klaus. I called out. Klaus. Are you here? I hugged my side as it was starting to hurt more. The sharp, stabbing pain hurt. Using the wall to balance and ease some pain, I kept holding my side and started walking. As I left the room I was in, I saw something that drove panic into me. On the ground, I saw a knife, a pocket knife. My pocket knife that I had bought earlier, sitting in a puddle of blood. Why was my pocket knife covered in blood? Whose blood is it? What happened? Is someone hurt? Many thoughts raced through my mind. As I stared at the knife, something else caught my eye. I wished it didn't. Near the door out of the apartment, a person was lying on the ground, blood in puddles underneath him. But this wasn't a random person. As I walked closer to him, I knew who that was. It was Klaus. He wasn't moving. A growing pit of dread manifested within me. As I looked at him, he was covered in blood. His grave wounds made me sick to my stomach. His torso looked as if he was brutally stabbed over and over. But the slit on his throat made me feel very sick. I had to look away. Who would do this? Klaus was such a kind person. What kind of selfish fucking monster would kill him? I started to panic, realizing the killer could still be there in the apartment. I leaned against the wall to try to stabilize myself and calm down. As I steadied myself, I noticed something. My gloves on my hands. They were stained with blood. But I didn't touch the bloody knife, nor was I close enough to Klaus to have stained them with blood. I paused for a moment and started checking myself for any possible wounds. Maybe the blood was from me and not the terrible possibility that it was from Klaus. When I saw the bloody stains around the holes in my shirt, I was actually a bit relieved. Perhaps the blood was mine and I didn't kill. I can't even think of that possibility. But the more I look at it, the more the latter option seems truthful. While Klaus's wounds were still bleeding despite him already passing, my wounds were smaller and had already stopped bleeding besides a drop here and there and the shearing pain. If my gloves are covered in blood, logic would say, it's not my blood on my hands. I started panicking, wondering how it all came to this. I killed him. The evidence was clearer than glass. My pocket knife is covered in blood. My gloves are covered in blood. My wounds are not big enough to bleed that much. But Klaus's wounds are brutal, deep, and nasty. Klaus's body is lying in a pool of blood. Klaus is the only other person in here. My best friend is dead. And I'm his killer. But how? I don't have a single violent memory of hurting anyone. I don't remember killing him, but evidence says enough. I am so sorry, Klaus. I didn't mean to take your life. I stuttered in a tearful whisper. I started to realize the consequences of this and started to panic. Not knowing anything else to do, I tried to back away from Klaus's body, slipping in blood. The fall made my wounds sting and possibly tore them open. I saw my wounds were starting to bleed. I looked around for something to help cover my wounds. I soon found Klaus's suit jacket hanging up, so I grabbed it and put it on, covering the wounds. With panic growing like a weed within, I grabbed the bloody pocket knife and left Klaus's apartment. I tried avoiding anyone's sight. Not knowing where else to go, I ran back to my apartment under the shroud of night, ignoring the sharp pain of my wounds. Feeling followed, I ran through alleyways, eventually getting back to my apartment. I was careful with the door as I didn't want to wake Rory and have him find out what I did. I went into the bathroom for the medical kit I had in there and sat down at the table. I started to carefully address my wounds, wincing in terrible pain as I cleaned them. I tried to be as quiet as I could so I wouldn't wake Rory, but I was never a quiet person.
Rory's POV. I woke up. I must have fallen asleep while waiting for Andy to return. I checked the time. The clock said 11:35 p.m. Shit. If Andy didn't return, then I should have been out hours ago to go look for him. I grabbed a jacket and left my room. I peeked into Andy's room. He's not there. I put on my jacket and was about to leave the apartment when I heard something. Someone was in here. I followed the sound to the kitchen table. It was Andy. There you are, Andy. I was just about to. I saw Andy trying to clean up injuries on his abdomen. But it doesn't take much to know that those were stab wounds. Andy looked scared. Rory. I cut him off. What happened and who the hell did that to you? He was silent. I calmed down and tried to talk to him. Andy. Tell me what happened. I won't judge you. I just want to help you. Do you promise you won't go to the police if I tell you? Andy sounds scared, which is not like him. I sighed. Andy, I'm a missing person and partially responsible for the death of an attempted kidnapper. Do you think I'm going anywhere near a police officer anytime soon? He looked down. No. He stuttered. Exactly. So if it involves anything illegal, I won't tell. You have my word. I'm honestly more nervous now that it does involve something illegal since Andy asked about the police. Andy took a deep breath. I killed somebody. Okay. Did not have murder on that list of possible illegal things. Well, if you attacked them after they attacked you, then you should be fine. I was partly responsible for the one bastard's death, and that's because he tried to abduct me for random, and I fought back. It's self-defense dash. He cut me off. It wasn't. He didn't attack me. If he did, it was after I attacked him. Andy sounded very shaken. I didn't want to think he openly attacked someone, but my thoughts were put down when I saw the bloody gloves and pocket knife on the table. I knew Andy didn't leave with a pocket knife, and I still had mine in my room, so Andy must have bought it when he went out. I looked at his wounds. Andy, patch your wounds as much as you can. Don't treat them, just cover them. He looked at me as if I was insane. Rory, I have to treat them. I could. I cut him off. Andy, I'm going to take you to the hospital. You can't just patch those wounds. We were only able to stitch and patch my arm when I was attacked that night because it wasn't deep. A scratch. I looked at him. You have holes in you. I was grazed, but you were stabbed. You have deep wounds. You can't treat them here. Clean yourself up, and try to remove evidence of who you killed off of you. I'll get your jacket for you. I watched as he struggled to clean the blood off of him. I set his jacket down on the table and grabbed my bag, taking a couple of bottles and a flashlight out. Rory, what are you doing? Just making sure you got that blood off. I said as I sprayed one of the bottles on a cloth. Here, rub this on your arms. He looked at me. Why? Just trust me. All right. He said as he rubbed the cloth against his arms. Using the flashlight, which was a black light, the remaining blood illuminated. Andy seemed shocked. W-add. Yep, that's luminol for you. Illuminates traces of blood. I handed him the other bottle, which was hydrogen peroxide. Scrub your arms with this, then check with the luminol until the light picks up no blood. Andy took the bottle. All right, Rory. I watched as he cleaned the blood of him just as I instructed. When the light showed no more blood, I helped him get his jacket on and was already coming up with at least 20 different stories I could feed the hospital on how he got his injuries. Out of the countless different alibis I could give, I decided that I would tell them Andy got mugged on his way home. It'd make sense given that stabbing is common in muggings, and since Andy isn't from towns, I could say this was his first time getting mugged, which will explain his shocked state to them. No one will learn that he killed a person, even if it was accidental. When we got there, I fed them the carefully woven false alibi, and they were none the wiser. They asked for my name, and who I was to Andy. I simply gave them my fake name, Rory Redentia, with the information that I was a friend and roommate. After hours of sarcastically eventful hours of waiting, Andy was all stitched and patched up, ready to go home. I'd say it was nearly 3:30 in the morning when we walked back to his apartment. Not willing to risk being attacked by anyone, I kept a firm grip on Andy's wrist and tightly held my pocket knife in my other hand. When back in the apartment, I helped Andy to his room and let him rest. When I walked back to my room, the bloody knife and gloves caught my eye. Using a cloth, I carefully put them in a shoebox and hid it. But the suit jacket was unfamiliar to me until I got a real good look at it. Where do I remember seeing this? I thought. I realized Andy's picture was on the counter, still waiting to be reframed. I looked at the picture and the article of clothing. I noticed one person, near Andy in the picture, was wearing the same suit jacket. If I remember, Andy said that was his best friend Klaus. Wait. I looked back at that one page of my journal where I drew the visions on. I remembered the person on the first death vision. Andy had said looked like his best friend. But in the vision, he wasn't wearing a suit jacket. So that means Andy killed Klaus. It was then that I realized the visions were coming true.